Redemption, a real-life saga, Book 1, by Janelle L. Darrell. Poem. Life. Life is a journey. What does it mean to be truly alive? What are we searching for? How can we find our heart's desire? How far would you go for your obsession? Are you brave enough to live your dreams? Can we dare to be true to ourselves? Is life worth living? How do you see the amazing in every day? Do you believe in yourself? Could you be tempted into evil? Can faith overcome evil or suffering? Are you feeling inspired? What you see is what you get. Make sure you don't miss a thing. Life is too short. By Tub. Dedication page. I dedicate this book to my mum, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be the spoiled man I am today. Thank you for everything. I don't show it, but you are perfect, and I love and adore you. I also dedicate this book to my sister Selena. We've had our ups and downs, but no matter what, we are strong and will get through it all. Special thanks to you, because before I decided to write, you were the only person I would or could tell all my crazy stories and life experiences to. You were like the pages in my diary. Finally, I dedicate this book to me. Thank you, Tub, for putting in all the work for making this book possible. It all started from a thought, and you manifested it. It was a long, hard and time-consuming process. When you were in doubt, and times when others didn't believe in you, you shook off the feeling and pushed on. You refused to lose or to be taken for anything less than you are worth. You are my hero, my Superman. You have come a long way, and we are finally done. I'm proud of you. This is just the beginning. I look forward to you showing the world that you are the next greatest writer. Thanks again. I appreciate you. Also, special thanks to all who have helped in the process of me making my book possible. Even if it was just your opinion, thank you. Introduction. In this book or true story about my life, I'll take you through some of my crazy experiences. In my wild journeys, which are all 100% true, I'll show you how life could change in one split second, and no matter how bad or how low in spirit I got, I had to survive and just take it all as a lesson. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. Chapter 1. Son of a Nun. People always ask me why I am the way I am. That's a question I also ask myself. I guess to figure that out, we would have to look at our parents and upbringing. My mother, who I love dearly, was born in Bermuda, and as a young child, for whatever reason, she was adopted. She was adopted by a Catholic priest from Trenton, New Jersey. I knew him by the name of Father Larry. She was flown from Bermuda to New Jersey in America, where she adopted the Catholic lifestyle. She would spend the next 16 years living as a nun in the Catholic faith. Yes, a real-life nun. I only believe it myself because I've seen the pictures of her in her ceremonies. She was adopted around the age of 5 and enrolled in the nunnery Catholic school. She says after graduating from high school you go straight into the monastery. She said for her it wasn't hard because their teaching is God comes first. So they had no thoughts about looking at men or nothing. It was no TVs or radios, and they were on a strict schedule, all lights out at 8 p.m. The lights were on a timer, so they would just shut off on schedule. All the nuns did was pray, study, chores, and feed the homeless. They also had daily devotion. Their lives were basically devoted to do God's work and to help God's children. Once you were in the monastery, you visited with your family once a month. During the visit, when your family came, you were only allowed to pray with them, and the head nuns would walk around and monitor the visits. All the nuns had daily duties. There was also a head nun, Mother Teresa, that made sure everyone followed rules. In charge of her was a priest that would make sure the head nun was doing her job. My mum says they were very strict. If you broke your vows to God, you would basically be made to leave and go home to your family. She said not everyone could handle being in the nunnery. Some people would miss their family and be crying all night. Mother Teresa wouldn't allow this and would tell them they are not cut out for it and they must leave. My mum says, on the other hand, if you did well, they promoted you and you got rewarded. Every 2 to 3 years you were reviewed. She also said you would get 2 weeks a year to go visit your family, or you could choose to do some volunteer work in a different monastery or another country. So, at the age of 21, she decided to go back to Bermuda to visit her birth mother and family. She said she returned in her nun outfit, and then her cousins encouraged her to not wear the loose covering clothing and wear tight-fitted jeans and drink alcohol and go to the clubs. She said everyone was giving her lots of attention because she had a slim body and American accent. She said she wasn't paying the guys no mind. That night they went to a club bar. When at the bar, she was persuaded to dance with a guy she must have liked or thought was cute. And feeling the effects of alcohol, plus the curiosity of never being with a guy before. And to make matters worse, she said she was feeling his arousal through his pants, and one thing led to another. After her trip to Bermuda, she returned to the monastery in America. Their rules were that they would give you a random test after your vacation to see if you'd been with a man because they were strict. So a week later they gave my mum a random test and they found out she had had sex. She had got pregnant from that one time and was pregnant with my sister. They didn't know she was pregnant. She didn't even know at that time. But the rules were, after the test, if you passed, you got rewarded, and if you failed, you were out because you had broken your vows. So she moved back to her family home in New Jersey. Soon after, she decided to move back to Bermuda to have her baby. Once back in Bermuda, I guess things didn't work out with my sister's daddy. So then she met my daddy, and 2 years later they had me, and then they married. I don't think the marriage lasted too long though, since I only have slight memories of us all living together. So I guess her goal after that was to provide for her 2 children and give us a good life. Now my father was a plumber by trade. He was into fishing, and he was also a twin. He had a twin sister and was one of 4 boys. He had been married 3 times and divorced all 3 times in the end. I think after the 3rd failed attempt at marriage, it had hurt him mentally. He had a daughter with his second wife, so I also have a little sister. One of my uncles, the youngest, was a tennis player. The other one hung himself in front of his girlfriend's door. She must have come out her front door one morning and found him hanging. I hear she was never the same again after finding his lifeless body. The crazy part was he had 2 daughters with the next woman. And then lastly, my beloved Uncle Bull. He was a gangster and got murdered. They say he got set up by his girlfriend. He is the only person I have ever felt a connection with as a father figure. So, I look at my 2 parental examples. On my dad's side, all I saw were weak men per se, and I vowed I would never be a weak man like them. On my mother's side, although my mom meant well mostly, she was in her own little realm world. She just pushed her efforts into work, so I and my sister had what we needed and a roof over our heads. My mum's side of the family, particularly the women, my older cousins, were the rebels per se. They had guys eating out the palms of their hands, and they took full advantage of the many guys that fancied them. They would juggle the men with their time, having them visit at different times, and had each of the men paying the same bills so they could just pocket the extra money. And they were so sharp they didn't even have to give up sex. So it wasn't like they were whores or women that slept with a lot of guys. They just had a way of getting whatever they wanted from the guys that liked them. These guys were all fools, I thought. I'll be thinking at least get some pussy sex if you're going to buy her the world. And they got all types of shit, from furniture, jewellery, their bills paid, and even toys for their kids. They were even getting these men to pay their rent. All these were all regular working guys, all looking for love and being strung along like fools. I knew no one would ever play me for an ass like that. So, from seeing my father's side and their example of males, and my mother's side of her family, particularly my older girl cousins that could control males like fools easily, I knew I would have to create my own path in life. I couldn't follow any other man's lead when it came to women, love and relationships. Now don't get me wrong, I never thought of them, my girl cousins, in a bad way for doing it, playing guys for fools. It was just the way it was. They didn't have to work either. Bills were paid and they didn't need for nothing. Their control was pretty impressive, if I must say so myself. But in my eyes, it looked like all the men in the world had a weakness for sweetness or was just weak, period. But overall, that shit made me think love and anything that has to do with love is all bullshit. I don't know if I set up my own defence against feelings, but the final outcome, my conclusion, is, this must be the reason why I never believed in love at all. Personally, I think it's all overrated. It's like man had told woman all he could tell her, all the sweet stuff, so he made up the word love to fuck with their women's minds a bit more. So all in all, that still don't answer the question to why I am the way I am. It will just give a clearer picture on how I may think of situations sometimes. Let's look more into my story and see what my life has in store for me. I was born December the 11th at the King Edward Memorial Hospital in Bermuda. It's only one hospital on the island of Bermuda, so this is basically the birthplace for everyone, unless you were born at home or on your way to the hospital. When I was born, my mother said I weighed 9 pounds 10 ounces. This must have been very big for a baby, because my sister weighed about 5 or 6 pounds. She says I was too big, so they had to give her a C-section to get me out. Basically, a C-section is when they cut the woman's stomach open to pull the baby out. She said when I was born, I was so fat and chubby. Now at this time, she had moved back in with her birth mother, and when her birth mother, my granny, came to the hospital the day I was born, the first thing she said when she saw me was, "He looks like a fat little tub." And from that moment, the tub nickname for me was born. I was a fat baby, but I haven't been fat since. Back in them days, we had metal basins or tubs that we would put out in the sun to warm up water for hot baths. So I guess she felt I looked fat, like a little round basin. But either way, the nickname stuck. My mum said when she took me home, my granny kept calling me her little tub, so everyone just called me that. The nickname also worked for me because my real birth name is Janelle, and I always felt it was too girly. To make matters worse, I had a girl in my primary school class with the same name. Hers were just spelled different. So, if anyone asked me my name, I just said Tub. Later in life, if you didn't go to school with me or work on a job with me, you never knew my real birth government name. Even though I didn't like my real birth name, I did not hide it. I just would say Tub and leave it as that. If someone asked my real name, I'd tell them, of course, but I would also explain the pronunciation and spelling so they don't think it's a girl's name. Not until I got in high school, secondary school, did I not give a fuck about the name no more, and I guess I just accepted it. I wasn't too worried about how it sounded or pronunciation no more. If you are calling me, I'll know, or just call me Tub. I realise the name don't make the man person. The man person makes the name. Plus, I was already in love with the name Tub by now, so it was all good. Now, growing up, I won't say my life was hard. Like most kids, we are born with a clean slate and we develop as time goes by. Overall, in my infant days, as far as I can remember it, was all good memories. I was basically a mama's boy. They tell me wherever she went, I wanted to go. She says she used to take me to my granny's house so she could babysit me while my mother went to work or wherever. But my reaction was, as a mama's boy, to cry and make a scene. So her solution for this was to walk me in the house, and when she sees I'm relaxed and playing, she would slip out the back door without me noticing. I most likely cried for a while once I noticed she was gone. She also mentioned that after the first time, I won't fall for her escape trick no more. I would sit by her scooter bike so she couldn't leave without me. I won't go play or nothing until I was sure she wasn't leaving me. So you could imagine, on the days she had to go to work, I'll probably cry a lot, so she won't leave me. This must have been true, because if you fast forward my life a bit, I remember I must have been around the age of 10 years old. My mother would leave me home with a babysitter and my sister that is 2 years older than me. I would refuse to stay home, so I would leave the house and go to her job. She worked about 3 blocks over on the main Hood business street. The street is called Court Street, and the bar my mother worked at was called Swinging Doors. The people on the street, old people hanging out, drinking and hustling, selling drugs, didn't like kids hanging out on the street, especially outside a bar at night, but I didn't care. I would go outside the bar and ask someone to call my mother. Seeing a kid out that time of night, someone would always ask me what I was doing out on the street. They would ask who I was looking for. Since it was never the same person, I'll say Wilma, the light-skinned lady behind the bar with freckles. She had a distinct look, you couldn't miss her. The random people I would ask to call her would always call her for me. She would come out and say, "Boy, I'm working. Go home to your sister." I would refuse. I would sit on the sidewalk and next to the bar all night, till like 3 a.m, till she was done work, and this happened all the time. So yes, we could say I was a mama's boy. She also said in my younger years growing up, I had soft feelings, as she called it. She said I was rude and cursed a lot, but if I was being disciplined, all she said she had to do was shout at me and I would cry. It was probably a tactic I used to not get licks, spanks. My mum was nice, but when it came to discipline, she was raw. She said me and my sister didn't care about spanks or licks. She said my sister wouldn't cry and just take it. But me, I'll cry, and when she stops, I'll go back and do the same thing. So I guess if me or my sister was being bad and won't listen, she won't spank us. She had a plan. First, she had started out with spanks licks, then went to wooden spoon or belt, or a branch from a casuarina tree, because they didn't break and were firm. But if you really pissed her off, she would wait until you were in the bathroom getting a bath. Once you were in the tub, she would then walk in with the stinger nettles plant. It's a plant that if you touch it, it stings your hands or whatever body part it touches. She walks in the bathroom with them and cut your wet ass. Damn, that raw. I can't imagine how that would feel right now, but fuck, it was torture back then. It was worse than a bee sting. Instant tears would come to your eyes as she walked in that bathroom with them. You knew you fucked up and they were for you. You would start pleading instantly to not get licks with them, but it was too late. I've never seen my mum change her mind once she walked in with them. And you're all wet and naked and in the tub. It's no escaping or running. My mother says that in primary school I was a good kid, but I was also a terror. I remember I had to be in my second year of primary school. My sister had taught me at home how to spell my first real word. I was proud of this. The word was encyclopedia. Now for a 6 or 7-year-old to spell that is pretty impressive, or so I thought. Plus, I know me and my sister probably had me working hard to remember how to spell it. So when I finally am a master at spelling this big word, me and my sister decide to go to my teacher one day and proceed to tell her how I can spell this word, and my sister got me to spell it for my teacher. Here I thought this was going to be a proud moment and my teacher would see the effort I put in. I guess her mind was focused on all the little bad I had done in her class so far, because she replies, "Okay, that's nice, but I hope you can apply the same effort to your behaviour." I remember thinking, she doesn't even care that I can spell this big word. I think if I got a little more positive feedback, I probably would have tried harder in school. But after she said that, I don't even think I tried to do the spelling shit with my sister no more. Me and my sister had to catch the bus to primary school. My mother and sister both said I would throw my packed school lunch out the bus window every day. And then when I got to school, I'll say to my teachers, "My mother is poor and she has no food for me." I would say that because they would make sure I got hot, cooked lunch that the school sold, but I would get it free. They sold hot dogs and hamburgers and soda. I wanted that, not a peanut butter sandwich and whatever else my mum was sending me to school with. Eventually the school called my mum and asked her if she needs help because she can't afford to send both her children to school with lunch. She was pissed and threatened my sister. My sister eventually told her that I had thrown my lunch out the bus window every morning, saying, "I don't want this shit." She probably spanked me for that. Another time, she says I stole the whole crate of chocolate milk that the milk truck delivers to the canteen school shop daily. I must have tried to drink them all, and it's like 30 small cartons of milk in one crate. This day, I must have got to school early and found the crate just sitting there, so I decided to hide it and drink them all. I guess they called my mum for that, and I probably got the strap in the principal's office. I also remember a next time when I was living with my dad for a little. My mum must have sent me to live there because I was getting in mischief in the neighbourhood and not listening to my mother. My dad was married to his second wife at the time, and I hated her to death. It was mainly because she would make me go to my bed before dark. I didn't like this one bit, so at night I'll wait till her and my dad went to sleep. Once they were asleep, I would go in my stepmom's purse and take money. The next day, I'll see my big sister in primary school and give her money and buy us and people lunch. And I was doing this a lot, almost every night. I so didn't like her. She probably thought it was my dad stealing the money, because my little sister was too small to do anything. My dad's second wife is cool now, but back then, fuck her. I remember after I would take the money out her purse, I would hide it in my school socks and not pull it out till I was at school the next day. All I remember was orange bills in different colours. I didn't even know how much I was taking at the time. I was just taking from her because I didn't like her one bit. I must have been a terror. I also remember in the 3rd grade of primary school, my teacher, Mrs. Smith, kept me and a girl back. The girl was probably not bright enough to move on to the next grade, but I know she kept me back because of my behaviour. In our class, we had a display of real money posted on the display board in the class to help us students learn the differences of the money, how they look and all the different bills. Probably from $50 bill and $20 bill all the way down to a penny. One day I took all the money off the board. Yup, I stole it all. I even took the penny. Don't exactly know how I got caught because I didn't get caught red-handed or actually stealing the money. I took and then spent the money, but later I got in trouble for it, and she kept me back, didn't allow me to move into the next grade. Guess I wasn't smooth at that age since I got caught. I was still young though. I had to have been, because if you start primary school at the age of 5, and I was in year 3, I had to be about 8 years of age, and at that point in time. In the last grade of primary school, I was picked to be an exchange student. My sister, that was 2 years ahead of me, was also picked to be an exchange student when she was in her final year. I guess she made a good impression when they sent her to Australia. She was always a good student, into books, reading, and just staying inside, not really into roaming the neighbourhood and getting into trouble like me. When it was my time, final year, I think you had to sign up if you wanted to be a part of the exchange student programme. This programme was basically about 8 to 10 students, if you were picked, went on a trip to live with a family for about a month in another country. First, I remember, once they chose the 10, and I was like the 11th. They had to have a few substitutes in case someone couldn't go. A lot of people would sign up to go, though. This was a big thing and tradition for the primary school. The name of the primary school was Prospect Primary School. So, if you got picked as an exchange student, it was a big thing. To make a long story short, I was told I was picked to go, and I would be going to Pennsylvania, USA. I was ecstatic, happy about this. I went home and told my mum and was telling her all the stuff I needed that was on the list the school had given me when they told me I was chosen to go on the trip. My mum tells me, don't worry, she gets paid end of month and she will get me everything I need. I had to be about the age of 12 or 13 around this time. I don't know if a week had gone by or more. All I knew, the trip was coming and I hadn't got my stuff yet. So one day I decide to the teachers, crying, and say my mother is poor, she can't afford to buy me my stuff to go away with. So the teachers felt sorry for me and took me and brought me all I needed for the trip. When my mum found out about this, she was very, very angry. I probably got beaten, spanked or punished in some way. Anyway, I went to Pennsylvania and it was a nice trip. I stayed with a nice family. They were white people, very nice, and stayed in a big house on the top of like a mountain, it seemed, but I guess it was just a big hill. Coming from Bermuda, everything looked big and seemed so far away. Unfortunately, I have since lost contact with them. The family consisted of a mom, dad, brother, and a little younger sister. The guy I stayed with was named William B.J. Gillian. He was into collecting baseball cards. I swear he had a rookie card of Babe Ruth. He probably owns a store by now. He was deep into collecting the cards and always had the best and expensive ones. He was a nice guy and good friend in my younger years. So if he reads this or you know of him, tell him holler at me. We did happen to reunite one time though. It was about a year or more later and somehow I had got into swimming. Like Olympic swimming, I had joined a swimming club and all. It had all come about because my mum had moved to another apartment and it just happened to be close to the Saltus Grammar School. And this was an uppity white school and they had a swimming pool. So I would go swimming in the pool at night or after school or weekend or whenever it wasn't no one there and the pool was closed. I would just jump over the fence and go swimming. My mum said I got caught in the pool and they must have signed me up for a swimming club. And from there my swimming career was born. I used to like it, I guess, because I would participate in all sorts of swimming events. One day I was in one of the many swim meets I would enter and people from all over the world came to compete. And just out of nowhere my friend William Gillian and his sister was there. They were also into swimming and also competing in this swim meet. It was so nice to see them and we vowed to keep in touch. But yes, we lost contact again. So William B.J. Gillian, contact me. But it still surprises me how me and my sister came from the same woman and basically grew up together, but we are so different. Yes, we both have brilliant minds, thank God for that, but she has always been so good. Not drink or smoke and just do the right thing. And me? I'm just me. Yes, I did have drunk alcohol and smoked tobacco and weed in the past, but I won't say I'm bad. I think I'm good also. But I'm more like a good bad, a bad good. Basically, I'm just me. My mum was always in my life, but I always felt like I was bringing up myself and also felt alone. Yes, I had a sister there, and her and I was cool, but we were just into different things. So I used to just do whatever I wanted and just run the streets. My mum's only rule for me was, and I quote, "Don't bring the police to her door for no reasons." Basically, don't get in no trouble. So I was basically free to do whatever I wanted. That was just how it was, and during this time I was learning all about the streets, hood life. Also, I think from me going out Court Street nights to look for my mum at a young age, and also refusing to leave and just wait for her, my mind was taking the street life all in. It must have been so entertaining to my young mind. So I used the analogy that Iceberg Slim used in his book, The Pimp. So that's where my mind, probably got street poisoned. I was also tall for my age, I guess, so I never got a hassle or question of why I was on the streets at night no more. Or maybe they were already used to seeing my face from before when I used to wait for my mum on the same street. But either way, I started to be out the street at night. It was always something going on, from a fight to people arguing, people riding bikes up and down, even people getting chased by police and getting away and coming right back to the street and brag, laugh and just make mockery at the cops because the cops couldn't catch them. When I was about 14 is when I went through my first street hustle experience. From hanging out on the streets all hours of the night, I saw the many hustles and hustlers. I saw that selling crack was a good business, so I decided to give it a try. I found out how much money I needed to buy some crack to sell. I figured since I was already out at the late hours, it should be easy because people always came looking for drugs in the streets round them times. I got the money I needed. I can't remember exactly how much it had cost me at the time. Maybe $250. I went to my boy Greens, who I'd been hanging with at night out on the street. He would also sell crack at nights out Court Street. I would have his back if needed, watch out for police and help him with sales. Since I was always around and it looked easy enough, I proceeded to tell him my plan and how I wanted to purchase drugs to sell so I can make some money also. He tells me he can link the drugs for me. He tells me he will go to Yankee. Yankee was basically the king of the streets. He could get me something nice, as in get me a good product to sell, and I could make a good turn. Make a turn means sell the drugs and double the money you paid for it. We go up the street a bit to the building apartments where Yankee has control over. My boy Greens tells me wait out front a sec, and he goes in to get it. I wait for a bit and then he comes out a little while later and hands me the package. We walk back down the street and then I go home and package up, prepare the drugs, put it in little separate 50 and 20 small twists. So I'll be ready for sales when people come looking for drugs, crack, later tonight. I go do what I'm got to do as far as breaking it down and packaging it, and now I'm ready for the street people, or so I thought. Everybody from the hood knew me already, and 2 blocks away out Court Street my face was becoming familiar, so I knew I shouldn't have no problems. So that night I'm out Court Street, across from Swinging Doors. My boy Greens wasn't around tonight, so I just chilled on the block in the usual spot. I'm waiting and hoping that someone would come walking by that wants to purchase drugs, because I haven't made my first sale yet. Later that night, someone I knew from the hood, an older male named Chalice, came walking by. To me, he was like a hood superstar, a real popular and liked guy from the hood ghetto. As he walked past me, I let him know I've got drugs for sale. He asks what particular exact drug I've got. I say I've got some crack for sale, so he tells me come with him and he will get me some sales. We walk through the hood, just having small talk, basic conversation on the way. He takes me up the back of a next area called the Curve to a house. In this small little crack house, it's a guy and a chick. You can clearly see that they're smokers, users of drugs. They are sitting at a table with crack pipes, ashtrays, cigarettes and beer, all in front of them. He tells them I've got drugs, crack for sale, and he asks me for a bit so they can try it. I gave him a $20 worth, brown twist, so they can sample it, and hopefully they want to buy some after. That's if it's good quality drugs. He takes the twist over to the table, opens it up, and proceeds to roll it into a joint. This is surprising to me, because I never knew Chalice had done drugs. He then lights up the joint and takes a few pulls, and walks across the room towards me, and tries to pass it to me. I'm thinking, what the fuck? I want to sell it, not smoke it, I say. No, I'm cool, I don't do it, I thought to myself. It's not happening. I haven't even smoked weed or even cigarettes yet, so I'm definitely not trying this. He says, it won't hurt you, try it. I reply, nah, I'm good, I don't smoke. He went on, just take one draw, just taste it. I begin to get a bit irritated because I feel the pressure, so I say, I'm not fucking trying it. I guess he can hear and sense I'm not game to try the crack joint, so he continues to smoke it himself. He walks back across the room and continues to talk to the guy and girl. The girl says, Chalice, you're foaming at the mouth. Her words caught everyone's attention, and yes, he was foaming at the mouth. He replied in shock, what? Huh? Like he was confused, and then he looked in a mirror on the wall. He wipes away the foam at the corners of his mouth and takes another pull of the crack joint so he can really taste it. He then turned and said, this shit crack isn't real. I guess he was experienced because he knew the cause of it, the foaming of the mouth, one time. All this shit was new to me. I said, are you sure? Try another piece. I pulled out another piece so he could check it. They didn't smoke it this time. They all put it in their mouths to taste it. And they all confirmed to my horror surprise that the drugs were fake. It was actually all candle wax made to look like real drugs. They asked where I brought it. I just said out the street, Court Street. They confirmed I was swindled, robbed, sold fake shit. I thought, damn, I'm been robbed. A little while after all that, I told Chalice and the people, I'm out, leaving, and I'll catch up with them later. As I left and walked home, I thought about the experience. I was thinking back on how at the house just now, Chalice was trying to get me to try the drugs. I wasn't trying that drugs shit. I've seen drugs fuck up too many people, even a few family members, so I couldn't use the shit drugs. Then I thought on how I had brought fake drugs. I felt like a fool. I was hustled. I thought to myself, my boy Greens couldn't have robbed me. The next time I saw Greens, I say, "What's up with that? You got me fake shit drugs." He pleads innocent and tells me he didn't have a clue and he thinks Yankee robbed us both by selling him fake shit. It was probably all just a scam, but I just let it go. It was nothing I could do, really. He was my nigger, and I didn't know who was selling the fake shit drugs. But all, in the end I got robbed and had to take the loss. I just took it as a lesson and moved on. From the beginning, I knew the streets didn't have no mercy, and you couldn't trust no one. If I fast forward a bit, Chalice was found about 20 years later dead. He had hung himself in his girlfriend's closet. R.I.P. Chalice. Chapter 2. Death of a Good Friend. My World, My Way. About a year later, when I was 15, my mum attempts to set down some rules. Well, she tried to tell me she wanted me inside the house at a certain time at night, before it got too late, because she doesn't want me in the streets at night. I asked her if she was crazy. I tell her, I've been doing whatever I want for like forever, and now you want me follow rules? Especially be inside at a certain time. I was like, nah, don't think so. She probably tried to threaten me with punishment, but it was too late. The way I was, if I wanted to do something, I simply done it. Period. I haven't got no time to listen to no damn rules, unless they can get my ass locked up. And I still feel like that today. I always say, I don't follow the rules of the world, I follow the law. I say that meaning all the traditional shit stuff, like how a man is supposed to act, what he is supposed to do, how a man's supposed to live, and the basic rules he is supposed to follow, is all bullshit that has been passed down from past generation. I refuse to follow anything. I follow my own rules, and I say I follow the law, meaning I don't do no crime unless I can get away with it. Not literally speaking on that one. I guess my mother was working less now so she could keep a better eye on me, but the damage had already been done. I was already street poisoned. I was already in love with the streets and all the entertainment that came while hanging in the streets. My father was around, he was in my life, but I wasn't a priority to him, I felt. I guess him and my mum didn't work out for whatever reason. He was remarried and doing his own thing. I remember he wanted me in his third wedding, but in the end I declined because the girl was fat that I had to walk with. I was young at the time and just wasn't feeling it. That's how it goes sometimes. I also remember how it was so much rules over at his homestead, my granny house. I hated it. After growing up in the hood with no rules, then going to a place where rules were everything could not work for me. So that was not a place for me. I did like the fact that it was closer to the ocean and I could go swimming and fishing more. For some reason, even though my dad was in my life, I never felt a connection with him, as in father figure type. The only person I felt a connection with as a father figure was my Uncle Bull Daniels from North Shore, Gracechurch area. I remember he would always come look for me in Middletown, the area where I lived. I recall going to his funeral like it was yesterday. I was heartbroken. I cried and cried. I think he died when I was about 11 or 12. At the time, to me, in my young mind and heart, he was my hero. He would come to the hood riding his old Pooch motorbike or mobilette. They were popular back in that day. He would always have his short dreads hanging. They didn't wear helmets back in them days, well, he didn't. He would come looking for his nephew. The story behind his death was that he was murdered, stabbed, by a guy over some drugs. And the word on the streets was that my Uncle Bull's girlfriend at that time, that he was going out with dating, had set him up. I was young hearing this story. I didn't know what to think, because his girlfriend was at the funeral and clearly upset he was gone. All I knew, my Uncle Bull was gone. I can still vividly remember being at the gravesite, and that was like 25 years ago. My granny, his mum, said I always told him, "You live by the knife, you die by the knife." She said he liked to use a knife, but from the stories I hear about him, he was a real gangster who liked to use a gun. I will be sitting round a bunch of older guys, and I'll just bring up his name to see if anyone knew him. I won't tell
them I'm his nephew at first, because I wanted to hear the real stories. They say he ran North Shore and 42nd area, and he wasn't one to play with. He would roll around on his moped and just stop in different guys' areas' hoods and pull out a gun and make them give up all they shit. Drugs, weed and money. They said from this he was wanted by a lot of people, but he didn't care. I love to hear stories of my super Uncle Bull. One thing though, my granny was a mean bitch. She had a good heart and was a fluent member in the Salvation Army Church, and don't get me wrong, I love her to death and beyond, God bless her soul, but she was a mean bitch all the way, right to the end. Growing up, I hated to be around her, not until I got a bit older and realised I don't really have to listen to her. I just had to hear her. Once I realised this, I went around her more and realised she meant well. She just expressed herself in a mean way, and trust me, right to the end she held firm, hard all the way. I stuck close to her, though, and rewarded her meanness with kindness. She was overall a sweetheart, though. Some people are just strong-minded, willed, or just miserable. I guess she had to be, with 5 kids. People, family members, would tell me I was a little rude growing up, but I don't think I was that bad. I do recall the older I got, the ruder I was with my mouth. If you were older or bigger person or family member, and you annoyed me, I would fuck you off, call you names and then run. I was fast, and if you kept chasing me, I would run to my Christian great-aunt, Aunt Hilda. God bless her. She won't let no one harm me. I guess I had tactics for staying safe. She was also the one that made all the children in the neighbourhood go Sunday school, up at Fubbler's Church at the top of Middletown Hill every Sunday morning. She would walk around the whole neighbourhood and go door to door and get all the kids to make sure we all attended. She knew if she didn't make her rounds to the houses, no kids would really go, bless her heart. Growing up in the hood, or back of town as it was called, was cool. My immediate family, which consisted of me, my mum and sister, was always moving from apartments, it seemed, but that didn't impact my younger years too much. The first area I remember living in was Dock Hill. Then, next we moved to Two-Way, Deepdale. Then we moved to my loving hood, Middletown. Two-Way, Deepdale and Middletown are not too far away from each other. From a young age, like primary school days, if anyone asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I'm not going to lie, I would always say a police officer. Thank God that didn't work out. Don't think I'll be a good cop. I probably would have been a dirty cop or a mean cop that just overdoes their job. I guess every kid says a cop, police officer though, because the cops and firemen are the only 2 professions that really visited schools to see the kids. I'm not got nothing against cops, I was just making a point. But I don't think I could be a cop because I don't think I could lock people in cages or cells. I would only be able to lock the people up that I didn't like, but you can't not like everyone, so that's not for me. But I guess their duty and the law is their principle. As I got a little older, I started to think that if I ever got old and couldn't get a job, I'll just be either a cop or a fireman. I thought I had life all figured out. I guess when I got into high secondary school, that's when my life began to take a little meaning. So even though my mind had already been street poisoned, I was still thinking somewhat good. So I decided to be a police cadet the first year of secondary school. Every Monday after school finished, police cadets started. At the time, I was wearing my blue cadet shirt and really being a part of it. I guess I thought my life would go down that path. God had different plans for me, I guess. I still have good interaction with the instructors when I see them, up to today. There were 2 police officers that were assigned to run the police cadet training at Warwick Secondary School. It was a male and woman. I can't remember the guy's name, but the chick was called Roma. They used to come to the school and give us real cadet training, take us on an outing to learn more, take us for rides in the police car, memory training, also showing us what to look for in spotting a criminal, all sorts of shit. That is just a rough summary of the shit we used to do, but we done a lot. I think the cadet phase came and went. Also, from the beginning of secondary school, I was into the girls. Primary school was one thing when it came to the girls, but high school was a whole different level. You had all sorts, older, younger, fat, skinny, pretty and ugly ones. white, black, Portuguese, American type, and even more different nationalities. I was like a kid in a candy store. I just liked the interaction, really. I didn't really get into having sex trying to fuck them until the middle of second year, or even beginning of third. I also had a few older cousins already at the school, so I knew no one could fuck with me, and I was tough anyway. Around the time my second year rolled around, all the cadet shit was forgotten, and I was on the road to destruction. My mum was so laid back, I used to wake up whatever time I wanted to head to school. One day, I literally remember, I was still lying in bed at 10 a.m. thinking, okay, I got to go to school, and which girl will I sex or try to sex in school today? Yes, I would fuck them girls right in school, in the bathroom, stairwell, the trees, tracks behind school, anywhere I chose and felt I couldn't get caught. And luckily, I never got caught. I know people that have been caught, though, by teachers, and even one of my boys got caught by a whole class. Wow, that must have been embarrassing.
Yeah, there you have it. You know what I mean? That's my beginning of my audio book, Redemption, a real life saga. You know, book 1, 2, and 3. We have book 1, chapter 1, beginning of chapter 2. We also gave you the poem at the beginning, and we gave you the introduction. You know what I mean? Just a little sneak so you can get a little sneak of what's going on. So you need to check out Janelle Darrell's books on Amazon and Kindle. Redemption, a real life saga. And also his up and new coming books. You know what I mean? Check out his clothing line on Teespring and all that. And yeah, man, you know, life, you know. Here I am today, as you watch the video, just doing my 500 push-ups. You know, we gotta stay fit. My poster's there. Make sure you check out the books, you know. You got all real stuff. It will tell you about people in Bermuda. You might read something, know about something in there, you know. As you see me doing my push-ups, I'm in doing 500, so it's kind of getting kind of tight. You see I'm strong, but, you know, here you have it. Make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you check on my shit, tell your friends about it, you know what I mean? It's gonna be a worldwide thing, you know, seeing we begin to England, you know, to promote my stuff. But bang, here you have it. Okay, since we have this today and we have a few minutes, let me give you a little insert into one of my books that's coming. This is what I call North London, from one of Janelle Darrell's books. Okay, North London. North London was cool, a more quiet vibe. It seemed like every area you go in England is the same but different. This was a more richer area per se. Nice houses, nice people, not much crime. My baby mom was sure to pick a crime-free area. My car was still down Ramsgate, and I had made it my goal to be driving my own car out in England by my birthday, December 11th. And I had came to England in the summer, September or October maybe. Now December was rolling around, and I'm thinking it's time to go get my car. Me and the girl still in contact, and she said my car is fine. I managed to borrow the money I needed from my sister for 2 months insurance. That would be December and January insurance, because I didn't want to have to worry about finding more money at the end of January for February. I think the insurance ended up being like £350 or £400 for each month. I went online and sorted all I needed to do, and now it was time to go get my car and drive it back to London, to North London. I was happy that I'll be able to drive my own car, and it was the 9th, so I had made my goal of driving my own car by my birthday. I still hadn't spoke to Kay, but I knew he would be cool. He was a grand man, and I wasn't chasing him to speak to him. I think I messaged him once and he didn't reply, so I left it as that. So on the 9th, I caught the train down to Ramsgate to my friend's house to grab my car. The train ride down was cool, quiet. I looked forward to driving back. I went to the girl's house and chilled a second before I was off driving back towards London. I had brought a GPS for my car, so I typed in my Barnet address and made sure the car had enough gas, and I was off. The drive back was about 100 miles, and like I mentioned, Bermuda is 24 square miles, so I had a long drive. It was December, so it was getting really cold now. The drive was getting smooth. I'm thinking maybe I made a good choice in cars. So I decided to push the car to 100 miles per hour again to test it. And it gets up quick and the speed reads 105, so I say good and slow down and just drive. When I get to about 30 miles, I see a warning light pop up in the dashboard. I'm thinking, oh fuck, this is like the worst that could ever happen. And it was the engine light also, so I knew it could be bad. I thought about pulling off the motorway, but it was evening time, about 8:30 p.m. I left Ramsgate from about 8, so I was well on my way. I'm not sure if I pulled off the motorway a second and then said fuck it, I should be able to make it, and then I pulled back onto the motorway and continued to drive, which was the worst move I could have made. Because at about 40 miles in the drive, I felt the car start a little. Something said pull the car over now, so I came out of the fast lane and pulled the car over the lay-by. And as soon as I pulled the car in the lay-by, it cut out. I couldn't believe my eyes. If I would have stayed on the road, the cars would have cut out. Yes, it was a good thing I pulled over because the car could have crashed, or it could have been a crash. But yeah, make sure you like and subscribe and check out my shit, alright? Yes, you can find the books on Amazon, Kindle, bookstores near you. Any bookstore will order it. Make sure you tell a friend about it. Check out my videos. Check it all out. Until next time, bless up. Here we have it.